Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists that it is completely possible to have a great career in the arts. And if you ever want to tune in and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just check out the schedule over at facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday to catch us on live. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time six-figure art business. With weekly trainings that include step-by-step proven art business techniques, plus painting tutorials from yours truly and other guest artists who are masters in their field, you will be well equipped to learn and grow into the highly skilled and highly profitable artist you know you're meant to be. I've figured out what it takes to build my own six-figure art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. It's not hard, but it does require your time and dedication. So, if you're up for the challenge, go to advancedmember.com. That's advancedmember.com to learn more. This week's episode features groovy California-based surf artist Drew Brophy. Drew is kind of a celebrity in my mind, right along with his wife, Maria Brophy. If you do not know the Brophies, then I highly encourage every single artist that is listening to click the link in my notes and buy Maria's book, Art, Money, Success. You can get that on Audible or paperback. I personally listen to everything on Audible as I paint, and it's seriously a game changer. Her book is the reason why I know so much about them and their art career, and needless to say, after reading her book twice, I was so excited to interview Drew and be asked to do a live Posca paint party this upcoming Friday. You'll hear all about it in this link. It's going to be so cool. So if you're listening to this on the Thursday or Friday before this happens, the link to join us is in the notes, and I really hope that you hop on with us after listening to this interview and getting to know Drew a little bit better. He's so cool. I think he said the word groovy, or it was some other surfer slang at one point. He said something and I was like, that is so cute. Like, he's just a cool dude, you know? And you'll see exactly what I mean, but let me know what you think about this week's episode with the Drew Brophy. So for anybody who's living under a rock and don't know who you are, could you just kind of give a little bit of an introduction of who you are and how you got into the arts before we start our questions?
Yeah, I mean, probably like many of the artists out there, I was just a kid that, was naturally good at drawing. I used to draw on my walls as a kid and kind of got nominated in school to draw all the things on for school and projects. And but I was a surfer, so I loved to surf. And surfing is really what saved me. I began painting on my own surfboards, and I got more notoriety for my surfboards than my surfing. But I just really dreamed of going to all the places in the world. It really fascinated me because I grew up in South Carolina, and not the best place for surfing, but surfing and then art allowed me to travel around the world painting surfboards. And so that's the way I got started, and I made a name for myself, and then I became an illustrator, and I just always said yes to every project that was presented to me, even though I didn't have any idea on how to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of background.
Yeah, I love it. So what do you think the tipping point was that took you from like hobby artist to professional artist? Because there are a lot of artists out there, especially right now, that are there in their current job and they're trying to, go full time. And so they're like in that tipping point area. So I just think it'd be really interesting to hear yours.
It was just a decision. I can remember graduating from high school, and my guidance counselor expressing to me that she was concerned about me because she proceeded to tell me that I couldn't surf and do art for the rest of my life, that I would have to get serious about, what I was going to do. And it really made me sad, and it really made me angry, actually, that the two things that I was good at, I was being told that I couldn't do, that they weren't worth pursuing. And I had the confidence to disagree. I won't say it was an easy path, but I knew what I wanted, and I went after it. And so that tipping point was really kind of, writing. I can remember writing down what I wanted out of my life, and I didn't care how I got it. I was willing to work hard, and I would paint anything. I mean, I told people I wasn't putting a label on myself. I would say, I'll paint a handicap sign on a parking lot if that was the only job I could get. And I just thought that anything that I was doing with my hand, with my ability painting, was worthwhile. And eventually I found my groove, of course, with surfboards. But prior to that, I was painting murals. I was anything I could get, and I failed so many times. I can remember doing an architectural rendering, and the guy told me I was the worst artist he'd ever seen. So, so I went through a lot of trouble. I tried to go to school, and school doesn't make sense to me. I took a couple community art classes, and I felt like I didn't belong there. So, that tipping point really was no plan B. I mean, there was only plan A for me. And I eventually got there. I think by the time I was 25, I was a successful artist.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that perspective of it too. You're like, this is it for me. So this is what's happening. I think that's a great inspiration for a lot of artists out there who are currently, they're self-taught and they didn't go the college route because it's, for one thing or another, it's not for them, and that's totally fine. Like I did, but I'm always telling the people that, like, you don't need a college degree to be an artist, and I think you're a great example of that.
Yeah, and there's many paths. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if you have the opportunity to go to school, please take it. I wish I could have gone. I would have learned things that, I might have been an oil painter or something. Of course, I used Posca pens, which I was told was not real art as a young person. And, I now that I'm at a place where, I've been doing this for 30 years, that I just realized that there's so many different ways to do art. There's so many different ways to make money doing art. And I just really do believe that there's never been a better time to be an artist. And you can find your path. You can find your uniqueness, and you can make a living. Now, you don't have to become some famous person. I mean, my goal was not really to do anything special other than to provide a good life for myself and my family, and doing what I was good at. I mean, I think that's all anybody really wants, is to have value of feeling like at least they're excelling at something, and that's what art gave for me. At least I knew how to do one thing really well, and so at the end of the day, it made me feel good. And I think that's a big lesson too. Just like, I don't know what other people's motivations are, but really, I was just a working artist. Like, I had to make money every day. So I painted boards on the beach in Hawaii. I mean, I used to live right on the ocean on the North Shore of Oahu, and I'd have to try to wake up and figure out how I was going to make money that day just so I could eat. And there's just a strange motivation about that, and authenticness, where you're like, doing what you're doing, and somebody shows interest, and you're like, yeah, well, I can do something for you. And, you're working for $20 at a time, you get good at, pleasing, not necessarily pleasing people, but just that interaction with people. I'm actually kind of an introvert, so I had to learn to sell myself and to communicate with people. So that was a skill I had to learn as well. There's lots of different skills that you have to learn as an artist that have nothing to do with art.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think a lot of artists can resonate with that too. I'm an introvert as well, and a lot of artists are. And if you think about it, like, that's a good thing because we can be by ourselves creating art all day and it doesn't bother us like it might bother an extrovert in a way,
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. But like, you did it. You did it. You're like, I'm going to use this medium. I'm going to paint this. And even if, and back then, like, there were no like Instagram artists out there doing all these different cool things for you to be like, oh yeah, they did it, I did it. You're just like kind of intuitive in that way almost. And speaking of Poscas, I actually have a Posca, your guys' thing actually right here. Look at this thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I am so impressed with this. We can talk about this later, but yeah, I looked down and I was like, oh yeah, it's right there. And it's just a different kind of niche too. Like the way that your stuff is just done on here, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's just such a cool, like, just different niche. And so how did you come up on that style of art that is completely all your own?
It really happened, I'm a really big believer in the universe kind of provides for you. And as a kid, I was very intimidated by like all the art materials. Like it's hard, like when you're not really introduced or you don't have anybody to teach you or show you anything. Maybe you're naturally good at drawing or something like that, but then you get introduced to all these paints and brushes and, the pretentiousness of art. We've all, had those types of folks that it has to be done this way or whatever. And it makes you really nervous and intimidates you. Not to mention it's very expensive. So if you don't have money, you might not have that opportunity. And so lucky enough for me that a friend of my family's bought me Posca pens back in the 80s, right when they first came out, when they were only available in Japan. And they were a gift. And what's really interesting about that is that the Posca pen was more intuitive. It worked like a pencil. And I learned how to blend the colors. And, they're made for children in Japan. But I'm kind of known for the person that took it into, creating art with it. And I immediately started painting on the surfboards. It was a natural fit for the surfboards and skateboards and shoes and things like that. I was kind of the last of 5 kids, so I never had anything new. So I was always trying to make stuff my own, so I'd get my brother's old shoes and I'd have to paint them up to make them look cool. And so that style just happened naturally. I mean, I was just desperately trying to do something that was good enough to be considered art. And you do something for long enough that you kind of figure it out and you develop this style. And everything that I create's inspired by nature. I love surfing, and I grew up, like I said, in South Carolina in around the estuaries, fishing, and so everything was about the water and the animals and the sun. And so if you look at my paintings, everything's alive, everything's moving, and so I mean, it just really happened naturally, and I just over the years have just developed this fun, energetic style, and I really like sharing it with people so that they feel that they can create. It's a very liberating feeling, even for somebody who doesn't think they can. I tell them not to try so hard.
Yeah, get out of your own way. Don't think about it too much. Just like do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how many hours do you spend painting a day? I like to ask all artists this.
It depends on the projects. I mean, there again, as a professional artist, I mean, people think like, oh, wow, your life's so great. You get to paint all day. And, it's actually pretty stressful. I mean, depending on what Maria has overbooked me for, sometimes I have like 30 paintings I got to do for a project, and, it's just a grind. I mean, it's all day, every day, sometimes all night. And then other times it's more the ideas. I really believe the ideas are everything. So in that respect, there's a lot of drawing. For people out there, I mean, the drawing is everything. and being able to let go and put yourself in a space where you're creating in your sketchbook. And that's where all the great ideas are born. Little thumbnail, funny little sketches. And, you go through pages of just mess, and then all of a sudden you draw this one little thing and you're like, that's it. Well, you tighten that up and that ends up being the coolest painting. So the painting's not that hard. It's actually the idea that you need to search for.
The idea is is the hard part for me a lot of the times, because I'm like, I don't know, like, to come up with an original idea. Where do you get your inspiration? Because I go to Pinterest and Google and like piece together different things, but I'm interested in how you go about it.
Nature, all nature, life experience. You pick up things inadvertently. I mean, you can't help it by the things that you see. So I actually really try not to look at anything.
Oh, that's smart.
So that it doesn't, and I'm coming from a place where there was no computers and no Instagram, which that kind of puts me in a different space, because, I've watched all these things come of age, and so it might be more difficult for somebody who's born with those things to find those creative inspirations around them, but they're there.
Yeah.
And I think people just need to spend more time looking around instead of looking at their device. But the device is amazing, because, I mean, let's face it, when you have to look up something to see, what it actually looks like, or just looking for other ideas to throw in there. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's a tool, but it's just a tool. So it's just another thing in your pocket, but don't discount real life experience.
Yeah, for sure. And like I as you're talking, I'm remembering like some of the best ideas I've had are when I'm like in the shower, not connected to my advice, or like when I'm out running, I'll be like, oh my gosh. And then it just like think when you're away from the phone, you're right. That's when like all the cool ideas can kind of happen, because there's nothing else influencing you. So I love that. I'm going to take that and do that today, actually.
Yeah. I mean, like just the butterfly behind you. I mean, how beautiful are things in nature. I mean, I'll be sitting out in front of my studio here, and we have a hummingbird that comes, and I hear him first, and then I see him, and I'm just like, look at this beautiful like creature. And then it's like, drinking nectar out of the flower, and I'm just like tripping out. Like the whole experience is just like surreal. And to realize that so many people might be missing that. So I kind of feel like that as an artist, it's our job to capture those things and put them into paintings and put it out there in the world to remind them that this is all happening around us, and it's utterly amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it's and put it out there in our own expressive way too, because I could not have thought to do any of what you have done. So you have just a very unique, expressive way about it. Can you talk us through your painting process? Are there any methods that you use for these Posca paints? Is it you paint and then you outline, or anything else?
So back in the day when I was traveling around with these, and so back then I had to actually go to places and do everything, and life has gotten much easier now, but everybody was always looking at what I was doing and trying to figure it out and asking me questions, and they wanted to try it, of course. And so inadvertently I began showing people and spreading Poscas around the world. I used to, I've traveled to like 18 different countries working professionally. Like I'd stay there for like a couple months and paint a couple hundred surfboards and then go on to the next place. So, I was so busy doing it, I didn't realize that I had a method. But at some point, I was getting so many questions, especially when the internet started and email started. People were just asking questions from all around the world. And I just thought, it was so neat that I could talk to these people via email, and I tried to answer them all, and then it just got too many. And like I couldn't keep up, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. And that's when Maria came up with the idea to do a video. And so we had made a DVD back then. I forget what year that was, but it was the first time I actually had to reverse engineer what I was doing. and turned out that I did have a very specific method of how I was painting, which is really great to teach now because a lot of people who don't feel like they're good at art, I can give them that, and it gives them a method to progress through the painting and know where they're going next, and they can start and finish a painting in one sitting, let's say. And then that gives them the confidence and in the experience of satisfaction of like, wow, I did something, and that gives them confidence to move forward versus like when you're intimidated by your medium or, brushes and all this stuff, and you got to set up and you get started and frustrated, and so you don't get that satisfaction of completion. And so I really try to encourage people. It's really easy to paint with the pens, and if they get that satisfaction, then they can maybe move on to a more sophisticated medium that allows them to do, better, do more extraordinary work. Yeah. But needless to say, no matter how they do it, whether you're a beginner or you want to take it further, the Poscas are great just as to get an idea out fast. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, and they're so fluid, and they just, doesn't require a whole lot of mixing or layering. It's just, just putting it on there. I have very little experience with it, although Emily and I did do a window. We did a big window painting with a lot of Poscas. But I'm so excited. I guess it's a good segue real quick to go into. We're going to be painting together on this Friday. And
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, anybody who's interested, I'm going to send out a couple emails, but anybody who wants to paint with us, just send us a DM, either one of us, and you can sign up. You have to sign up. It's completely free, but we're going to be painting Poscas, and I suggest that we painted a butterfly. And it's funny because I actually Googled Posca butterfly, and a butterfly that you did came up on Google search. Yeah, and it's so cool. It's like, ooh, let's do this one, or something similar to that one.
Yeah. Well, what's great about these events is, throwing the idea out there and then to see what other people paint, and they're all different. And, that's my favorite part because it's hard to, you go through the process and you try to tell people like little tips and things like that. We give them, answer all questions, but in the end, it's like we're all painting together. It's like we're all hanging out, and then just seeing everybody's work is just so cool. So, I always tell people you don't have to paint what I'm painting. I really want you to think outside the box, and man, they sure do. It's been a really gratifying exercise.
Yeah, I love seeing your emails on it and everything, and your posts and like that. It looks so cool. I'm so excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I'm stoked to have you. And it's all Maria's idea. Maria is my wife and business partner, and she puts these things together. And I kind of hide in the studio, and she puts me out into the world, and I get to meet like all these great people. And so I'll let you. I'm gonna let you run the show. I'm just gonna. I'll just answer questions.
Okay, yeah, I'll probably ask you for a couple tips on just like layering and blending and stuff. So we'll go at it. But I know that like you saying that, like that Maria kind of like is the behind the scenes of it and puts you out there, and every artist listening to this is so jealous. They're like, because most people are having to do it both, like doing their own emails and setting up the own events and all that, and they're just like, oh, so you are a lucky man, and as is she. So you guys are a great team.
Well, it is. When I was first starting out and it was just me, it was very difficult. I feel for all the artists out there that have to wear both hats, because they're very different hats to wear. It's one thing creating the art. It's even selling the art is difficult for a lot of people, as far as, when somebody asks you how much something is, you tend to always lowball it. And so like, those times were hard for me. I got good at it, but I was also I was probably a very difficult person to deal with, because if somebody owed me money, I wasn't very nice about it. I'd tell them like, look, you pay me or I'm going to come destroy your office. And so that didn't go over too well. So Maria softened me up a lot in life, and it was just really nice that, when I looked at like the type of person I wanted to spend my life with, I wanted someone like Maria. So for all of you out there, being an artist or, whatever it is in your life, be very clear on what you want. I had written down exactly what I wanted out of my life and what I wanted out of a wife and the way I wanted my life to unfold. And I can say that together we created that. And having Maria at my side and has really allowed us to excel beyond what I think a lot of other people have been able to do, just because I don't have to worry about selling art. I don't have to worry about collecting money. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't talk to anybody until we get a deposit. And that allows me to stay focused on the projects at hand and allows me to be at my best and allows her to be at her best, which is really cool. So not everybody's going to have that, but just realize that, the skills necessary to be a professional artist are all these things that some of them don't have anything to do with art. And I think that's why Maria's book is so great, that, we really wanted everybody to know all the things that we had to learn ourselves. There was nobody for us to really emulate. Nobody was really free with their information. I just picked up all these little tidbits, and Maria brought stuff from her life experience. And we kind of, we were always looking for a mentor, but we never really found one. So it feels good to put this out in the world and have her book. Hopefully it helps a lot of people.
I think it definitely has. I mean, I listened to it twice, and I was literally just on an interview with a girl named Patricia, and after we got off, I was like, hey, you need to download this book and listen to it, and I'm about to interview them right now to go if you want to check it out. But I would tell everybody, I'm like, just download the book on Audible, listen to it while you paint, and just absorb everything. Because, nothing beats just years of experience in something like this.
Yeah, and in all different phases of art, everything from licensing to charities to how to price things. Murals were always a big one for me because, I would, do something and spend a week painting a mural and look at what I got paid. And I was just like, this is, not really panning out. Now, I was very happy doing what I was doing and getting paid for it. But if you want to get ahead, you got to make sure that if somebody's paying you $1,000, you give them $1,000 worth of work, not $10,000.
Yeah.
And so usually what I see is a lot of artists out there that want to impress and want to, do their best. And usually the client's not really asking for that. They like what you do, but they say, okay, well, I have a budget of this. Can you do something like this? So that might be $1,000, let's say. And then you turn around, you want to impress them and do something well beyond that. You're doing yourself a disservice. So you really need to gauge how much effort, time, and energy that it's going into this so that you have some type of balance. So you're not left depleted and resentful for not getting paid enough for it. And then you're mad at the client who, didn't ask you to do what you gave them. And that's a big lesson for people to learn, because everybody wants to create a masterpiece. We all have a masterpiece within us, but nobody's paying you to create the masterpiece yet. It takes time.
Yeah.
And so even at my, I would love for somebody to pay me to paint a masterpiece. Most of the things I get paid to paint are fast, and I gotta actually go, dumb it down and do it more simple based off of what I'm being asked to do. Now, if somebody, hopefully one day, or maybe I get there on my own to where I can say, okay, I'm going to spend 6 months on a piece, I undoubtedly would, pour everything I have into it, and that's where we all hope to get to. But for now, it's okay to make a living doing what you're good at and providing a service and making people happy and making a great life for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. I remember, I mean, I've an example that I've committed myself to several projects. And at the end of it, I was like, I knew that I was underbidding myself. And then at the end of it, I was kind of resenting working it because I'm like, this is so much time. And so, yeah, that's great advice to like build or live up to the level of the customer, what the customer wants to pay, I guess. And
Yeah.
just kind of be upfront with that too. Like, I can do this or I can do this, you know?
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you can't make an exception at times,
Mm-hmm.
or, let's say you have nothing going on and you
Yeah.
have the time, uh, and you want to stoke somebody out. There are exceptions to that, but, in general, that you just really have to be conscious of these like little subtle things that you kind of don't really think about when you're getting started out. You're just kind of like, you just think you're going to be painting masterpieces all day, and it's just like, well, maybe not. Every once in a while, you might have to paint something silly just for the paycheck, and especially when you have like a family, like I did. It was humbling to have to accept jobs just to get paid, and I think a part of you gets a little frustrated, but then at the same time, I started thinking, God, I'm so lucky that people are asking me to do these things, and it's not beneath me. I think
Yeah.
that's another like humbling thing of just like, um, who cares how great your art is if you're not feeding your family? Who cares? I mean, it's awesome feeling to know that when you're able to do it and organize it in such a fashion where you're really pulling it off and it's flowing and you're getting genuine admiration for not just your way you live your life and the way you do everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
for
that
sure.
make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned painting a parking lot sign. I was like, I just did that like a few months ago. Somebody asked me to paint a parking lot sign, and it was like a handicap sign, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, you pay the right amount, I'll do it whatever you want. There's no like, I'm too good for that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be eager to learn. That's the other thing. Like there's so many things I want to learn how to do. Like I really love lettering, and I met a sign painter once, and like technology's great, but like, all those sign painters got put out of business overnight with, type styles and printing. And I met this guy who watched me paint this big 60-foot mural, and he hung out every day, talking to me. And I was just like, why are you hanging out with me? And he goes, well, I used to be an artist too. I was a sign painter. And he says, I have hundreds of fonts stored in my head and nobody to teach them to. And it just broke my heart. And I was just like, wish I could have just spent every day with him for the next month learning all that stuff, that skill. So we really need to be conscious of that and realize that there's these really cool skills out there that we could be learning and sharing with other people, and they're there, and we could lose them if we don't take advantage of that.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, we're all fighting against vinyl, but then I feel like some companies are just kind of like, a lot of people want that hand painted thing that's so unique that vinyl and printing just can't do. But yeah, you're right, and also with just like the set painters. I worked
Yeah.
with a lot of set painters out that painted stuff in Hollywood, and they're like, I mean, our job isn't a thing much anymore as it used to be. Is there anything that you don't like to paint without?
Um, like, what do you mean?
Like I listen to music or podcasts, really, or is there a
Oh,
certain?
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, especially in the early days in the surfboard factory, we were blasting music constantly.
Oh,
And so, it allows you to get into that groove and just, go. So like a lot of the things that I've been involved in, whether it's painting, vans with spray paint or painting surfboards, I did 10 to 20 surfboards in a day, every day
whoa,
in factories all over the world. So it wasn't like, I'm waiting for inspiration. It was like you're showing up at 8 in the morning. You were putting on like speed metal, Pantera or something to get you motivated to get this stuff done, because it wasn't like I could wait for inspiration. It was just like, okay, there's all these boards need to be finished by a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to be good. And what I realized in that is no matter what you paint, somebody's going to love it and somebody's going to hate it.
Yeah.
And so I would paint something and I'd go, oh my gosh, that's the worst board I ever painted. And then some guy would come in and like, oh my God, that one's my favorite. So it allowed me to ease up a little bit and just get into the groove and go for it, and just paint wherever my mind was going. And I did that with vans too. So if any of you have ever seen escape camper vans, I've painted hundreds of them. They rent them out of cities all over America and Canada, and we spray paint them. So myself and a handful of other graffiti artists paint these vans, and they're all custom. We can paint anything we want, other than like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and political stuff. But other than that, the van's all taped off, and they have all the paint. They have more spray paint than I've ever seen in my life, like thousands of cans, every color you can imagine. And then the only rule is we have to finish it that day. So we show up and we paint the van all the way around. I usually do it in 6 to 8 hours. And I'm blasting music on my headphones because I got a respirator and glasses, a hood. I look like a thug, and I'm painting. But it's so fun because you're free and you're on pressure to just do it. It's like, it's like throwing you out on stage in front of 1,000 people. I'm like, all right, sing, sink or swim. But yeah, so I listen to music, and if I listen to something too soft, I paint too slow. And so that's not good for, we got to get things finished. So I usually listen to things that are pretty upbeat, and sometimes the same song. If I'm working on a project for multiple days, I might listen to the same song over and over again, and then have different songs for different projects, because usually I got like 5 or 6 projects going at a time. So then if I switch the song, I can switch my mindset into that project, and you're right back there from the day before. So that's a good trick.
That is really cool. Yeah, it's like a certain theme too. And I'm sure whenever you hear that song, you're like, oh, that project, even years later.
Yeah. And of course, listen to books on tape and things like that for the very long projects that are just, there's no getting around it. You have to do the time. And that's when the books come into handy. And you're excited to get back on that project because you want to pick up where the book left off.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any art lessons you've learned the hard way?
So all of them.
Yeah.
I think I took the hardest route ever for an artist. I don't know. Everything seemed not that it's. I tell people you're like artists. I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just hard. I mean, it's hard figuring out this Instagram live thing. We're fumbling around. It was hard to figure out Zoom on the fly for our free courses. It's when the internet came. I mean, you just really have to imagine, like, when I started, there was no, I was cutting Ruby lift for t-shirts, so there was no computers. I've had to learn all of it, and all of it was hard, and it took focus and determination, and I fought a lot of it. Like, I fought getting a cell phone. I thought the cell phones were stupid when they first came out. I was like, I don't want people bothering me all the time, but now it's a necessity. I mean, and to a lot of you, that might sound ridiculous, but if you really put yourself in my shoes, like how difficult that was, because I used to have to do sketches and send them through the mail.
Whoa.
And then call people and okay, did you get that? And they're like, okay, make these changes. And I'm like, okay. And then send them another sketch.
Wow. So
when email came out and we could, send things via scan it and send it over, that sped things up. And if anything, it's made it, it's definitely made it better. I mean, now we can just take a photo of a thing you're working on right in real time. But it's put a lot of pressure on us as artists. I really feel that we need to slow things down a little bit because, everybody says they want a Maria, but like when Maria overbooks you, and I sit there and tell her, I'm like, you realize I actually have to paint all these things, and she just keeps booking it out, and I'm like, oh my Lord, this is like, it's real. So like, it's really easy to sell something, but the real time of actually having to paint it is different. So,
Yeah.
All these things come into my mind of like, there are things I had to learn the hard way. Saying no, that's a big one. Saying no to something, and realizing on the spot, is this person going to be difficult? Knowing people and like saying, hey, this person's really difficult. I don't care how good of an opportunity is. It's going to be really a nightmare for my life. So maybe I'm going to say no because I don't want that. Or the opposite, you like have this person that's just amazing and you really want to help them get to where they're going. You're like, okay, I'll do anything for this person. Maria and I learned that one the hard way, firing clients that were a pain. We found out that certain clients were causing all the problems. And, it's like somebody throwing a grenade in your fishbowl every day. You're just like, you know what? I would rather not have that not happen. So they're gone.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so,
Dang, it's just like learn as you go too. And now you have all this business sense and things are just completely smooth sailing, right?
it's still,
Yeah.
well, I mean, this, thing that we're in now, I mean, we survived, 9/11 and we survived 2008. I mean, I had an accountant say something really, if you survived 2008, like right afterwards, if you guys survived, then you're doing something right because a lot of people didn't. And I think that's a good lesson for this thing that we have going now. I want everybody to have a lot of hope and a lot of thought that, this is going to create new opportunities. You have to be on your game and you have to have all the things that there again that have nothing to do with art and being easy to work with, being dependable, being the person that shows up and gets it done. All these things that seem so simple are the attributes that's going to get you to stand out and get you over the hump. And you're constantly training people to think of you in a certain way. And if you train them as the person that gets things done and is dependable and is easy to work with, you're going to do well. And your art will get better. I mean, my art was terrible. When I was 20 years old, my art was terrible. And I still made it. So I've seen a lot of people that that were really good, that were amazing artists, but they had all these other stuff that turned people off. You don't want to be that person. Mm-hmm. Because then they're still carrying around those same amazing paintings, talking about how great they are, and nobody cares. So all these things, I've literally seen it all, and I'm still learning. And my art's still not that great, but I hope that maybe.
Oh yeah, you got a long way to go. Okay, yeah.
But you know what I mean, like. Yeah. Well, like my buddy Phil Roberts is amazing. He's like a master painter. I might never get there, but I'm still going. And I'm eager to learn. I'm enjoying it still every day. I never really wanted to teach people, but yet everybody wants me to teach. So I'm kind of feeling that out and finding my groove with that. It's just been a neat journey. That's all.
Yeah, I love your perspective of just staying a student, and that opens up so many doors too, and it gives you like a bit of a humbleness as well, which people like when that's approachable. And yeah, okay. So what are your future art plans and goals? What are you working on right now? What's in the works?
Yeah. So what we want to do is, as soon as this is over, we want to get out, and we love to travel, and we're going to drive all over the country, and we're going to do Posca paint parties, just like we're doing them live now on the internet. But we when we would travel before, we'd always like stop into like little stores and stuff that carried a lot of my licensed products and paint with people. So we're going to do that in a bigger way. Now that my kids are grown, I can kind of focus on giving back a little bit, and we just really enjoy like going to small art shops, surf shops, museums, schools, friends' houses, and having just paint parties and having people create. Give them no rules other than get rid of all the white on the canvas. I don't care what you paint, just go for it. And I'm always impressed that the person that says they're terrible at art is the one that does something amazing. I'm like,
Yeah.
where did you come up with that? It's like totally out of the box. So that's what we want to do, and we'll be going everywhere. I just want to drive and hopefully the nation allows us to do that at some point and go see friends. It's really an excuse to see friends and go see cool places and be inspired by those places as well.
Yeah, a double whammy in that. That's amazing. You guys are living the dream, but for now we're just doing them online and just still having fun with it. But that's actually good practice too, just like getting in the whole swing of that.
Yeah, and I gotta say that just like this interview, like I really do feel like I'm sitting here with you, and I wish I could see everybody else. But the Zoom experience has been fabulous. We've had 100 to 200 people on our Zoom calls, and halfway through we kind of open it up for people to share and ask questions and show what they're working on. And there's people from all around the world, and I just didn't expect that. I just floored that. There's people in my own town, and then people in Australia, Japan, and Europe. And you're just sitting there like, wow, how is this happening? And you really do feel like you're all hanging out. And I just think that's such a wonderful thing. And for all of us, I mean, I don't know about you, but we're not hanging out with a whole lot of people. And then the next thing you know, you feel like you went to a party and you met all these people, and then you connect with them and you see their art. And yeah, it's just been a great thing. So the technology has really surprised me, actually. That's one good thing that's come out of this. And I think afterwards, we're going to be forever changed. We're going to be realizing that we can connect better and do things a little bit differently. And as artists, use this tool for our benefit.
I agree. Yeah, I'm so excited to be a part of it. And again, if anybody wants to join, we just DM either of us and we'll send you the link. And this Friday, we're going to be painting butterflies with Posca.
Yeah, and you'll be able to talk to us. That's what your face will be on the screen, and we'll be telling you how cool it is, or how to fix something if you feel you made a mistake.
Yeah.
It'll be your chance to ask us questions for yourself, which I think that's the neatest thing. If I had that as a kid, that I could have, or just even as a 25-year-old where I was totally lost, like trying it would have made all the difference in the world. That if just somebody that I admired or that had succeeded could give you even just to talk to them and say, hey, you know what? You're not doing anything wrong. It's just hard. I'd be like, cool. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
So what a great thing. So we're going to have fun for sure.
Awesome. I can't wait. Well, I've really enjoyed getting to know you and just like hearing your actual voice for the first time. I'm, following you on Instagram and all that. And yeah, now we can go into our Posca paint party and have a whole lot of fun there too and make some butterflies. Are you going to paint a butterfly right along with us, or are you going to do kind of your own thing? What do you think?
No, I'm doing a butterfly.
All right. Cool.
My butterfly is going to be super psychedelic. I can see it in my mind already.
Awesome. Yeah. Mine will be very similar, and that it's going to have I'm going to try to use every color in the box. That's my goal for it.
Yeah. And, it's easier to paint a little bit bigger than smaller.
Okay.
So that's a good tip for everybody. I see some people like paint something, it's like this big, and I'm like, okay, that's not necessarily the easiest, but then really big's not good either. you don't have to have Poscas. You can paint with anything.
Yeah. Because these things are kind of big if you want to look it up. Like you don't,
Yeah.
and also you don't, yeah, like you said, you don't have to have Poscas, but they're like, they're pretty big. Which,
there's
I like a challenge.
Show the tip. There's the tip of one.
Oh.
But then I got bigger ones, so I got all of them.
Oh my gosh.
So I probably have more Posca pens than anybody in the world.
I believe it. Yeah.
But those, whatever tools you have, colored pencils or paints or even drawing. My older brother joined it and he painted on cardboard. And I just thought it was so neat that he created some like amazing art just on scrap pieces of cardboard. So I've seen a lot of upcycling because people are stuck in their houses and they don't have art supplies and they decide to jump in. I've just seen so many creative ways to just be able to join in and have fun. And so don't worry about all that. Just come join us and hang out. It's a paint party.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait. With that, we're approaching our hour mark, so we'll just wrap it up. Thank you again so much for coming on here, and I really look forward to Friday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See you later, everybody. Life is good.
Yeah, life is good. See ya.
All right.
This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time six-figure art business. With weekly trainings that include step-by-step proven art business techniques, plus painting tutorials from yours truly, and other guest artists who are masters in their field, you will be well equipped to learn and grow into the highly skilled and highly profitable artist you know you're meant to be. I've figured out what it takes to build my own six-figure art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. It's not hard, but it does require your time and dedication. So, if you're up for the challenge, go to advancedmember.com. That's advancedmember.com to learn more. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. If you review our podcast and send a screenshot of that review to me on Instagram, I am at @ArtByAndreaEarhart. I will then promote your art on my story and tag you as a little thank you for helping me grow this podcast and our Artist Academy community. I have a reach of over 50,000 on Instagram, so this is a little help me to help you incentive. Also, if you ever want your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy to check out the schedule every Tuesday to catch us on live. I'll see you next week.